Yo, YouTube, welcome back to another video. We feeling good, we doing good, we off today, so we recorded. We just probably gonna sit down and do a whole bunch of reactions today. You know, um, I have to really find out how to make time for this shit. Like, I have to put a lot of shit to the side and really just cut a lot of shit out of my day just to be at this computer. Cause I find I really own, cause I can record, right? But actually sitting down and editing the videos, that actually takes a while. So having to do that the moment I get off work, that's a lot. That's a lot. But I can do it. And I'm gonna do it because this is what I really want to do, you know? This is what I want to be my main job. So I'm gonna make this, you feel me, really put all my effort into this, you know? Yeah, that's really about it. I just gotta, you know, just gotta put a lot of more shit to the side just to be right here. You know, that's all. That's all I gotta start doing, and then I'm good. But today's video, we are watching the only city planet in Star Wars that's worse than Coruscant. Now, I actually want to do a video on Tatooine too because I haven't been seeing Tatooine. I've been reading, when I watch Star Wars videos, I see in the comments people call Tatooine the hell, literal hell. So maybe this is what this video about, Tatooine. I haven't watched it before, so let's get into it.
The world of Coruscant is considered the center of the galaxy for a reason. It rests on a fulcrum of several key hyperlanes, and is home to trillions of beings, all of whom live within the city that is entirely covering the planet's surface. Coruscant is often perceived as the further one gets away from the world, the less developed the worlds become. But this couldn't be farther from the truth. It's a mistake to believe that Coruscant was the only ecumenopolis in the galaxy. An ecumenopolis is a planet covered by a city which has multiple layers, but there was another.
The way Coruscant has always looked has always been amazing. Coruscant, the design of Coruscant is it's really beautiful for real. I know right here, you calling this shit beautiful, all these factories and building this shit, this is beautiful, but in the movie, the set of the movie, when you was on the Coruscant, that shit always looked amazing. What was my favorite sets in the movies? I say my favorite scenes in the movie. Mustafar looked really good. I forgot. Do you know the snow planet Luke was on when he got captured by that Yeti and the Empire invaded? That planet looked good. Them sets were really good when they was fighting the AT-ATs. That shit was a good set. All when he went to go save, when Luke went to go save Han from Jabba and them. Yeah, Star Wars got some really amazing sets. The background, the action, man, I want to go watch the movies again. That's how good that shit is.
Another one just like Coruscant that existed in the Outer Rim. In today's data logs, we are going to be exploring the planet of Taris, a world once considered to be the Coruscant of the Outer Rim. But while some think the capital of the Republic is difficult to live on, they should consider themselves extremely lucky that they didn't grow up on Taris. It was rife with civil unrest, rampant speciesism, crime, and deadly disease, all building karma that would eventually culminate in it being crushed into powder by a Sith. So make sure your blaster and your medkit is handy, because we're descending into a planet that makes Coruscant look like a utopia. Taris lies on the Outer Rim in a system by the same name.
We really didn't get an idea of how bad Coruscant was as a civilization, because while we was on Coruscant, we was really just looking at, Anakin, Palpatine. We wasn't really we didn't really see the bad civilization parts of Coruscant. So I don't know. Of course, there was bounty hunters and shit, but other than that,
the planet rested on two very important hyperlanes, the Hydian Way and the Mandalorian Road. The Hydian Way was a route that stretched unbroken from the galactic north all the way to the galactic south, linking together a string of very important worlds. The Mandalorian Road was a short stretch from Mandalore that passed all the way through Taris and made it to the world of Coruscant. This was integral in the formation of the full length of the Hydian Way. With these two hyperlanes, this made Taris an extremely valuable location on the galactic map. However, it was settled relatively late in comparison to the other worlds, and it wasn't until sometime in the Mandaron period, which was the Republic history.
It's hyperspace routes. That makes sense. Actually makes sense. Because I was always wondering, like, how don't they, when they come out of hyperspace, how don't they just come out of hyperspace and just smack into a planet or a rock? You feel me? It's hyperspace routes. That makes sense.
From 7,000 to 5,000 BBY that the settlers first arrived on the world of Terrace. The original settlers were human, though their origins are completely unknown, and upon first landing, they colonized the planet and built a city underground at first. The original city became something of a legend to future inhabitants of the planet, as they began to call it the Promised Land. At this point, the world of Terrace was largely covered by trees, vegetation, and oceans, making it full of life with plenty to eat. They would eventually become governed by the Terrace Civil Authority, which quickly began construction on a gigantic city. They were aware of the important place in the hyperlane and wanted to take advantage of this as soon as possible. And by the year 5100 BBY, the landmass of Terrace was eclipsed by a gigantic city. This would be the first of 4 layers that would eventually make up the Ecumenopolis. Unlike Coruscant, which had thousands of levels, Terrace had less time to develop, and so it had 4 distinct levels. This very first one.
Coruscant had thousands of levels to it. Wow. I wish they would have showed more like, man, we just need some more Star Wars. They don't gotta do nothing else to the movies. They don't gotta make no more Star Wars movies, to be honest. They just need to leave them alone. And if they do not, honestly, my personal opinion, the Star Wars story, and this is how I watch Star Wars. This is how I watch Star Wars, not Star Wars, Trey. Star Wars. This is how I watch Star Wars. This is how I read Star Wars. Nigga, the story ends after Return of the Jedi. The story ends after Return of the Jedi. You know, I don't know nothing about Luke being Grandmaster, so I can't say nothing about that part. But I know the movie after Return of the Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, I don't fuck with that shit. I don't fuck with that trilogy. So, nigga, the story ends at Return of the Jedi for me. Hey, that's just it.
Was the surface, and would eventually become known as the Undercity, the underground promised land which separated the rest of the city by large, sprawling sewer systems. In the year 4600 BBY, population continued to spread, and so another layer would be built, soon becoming the Lower City. Only 200 years later, the Middle City would be built on top of it, with the Ecumenopolis capping out in the Upper City in around 4300 BBY. By this time, the Promised Land was completely abandoned and was gradually becoming forgotten. By now, the entire landmass had been buried by steel and duracrete, and the Terracins were unable to keep any sort of livestock or crops on the world. As a result, they became dependent on their oceans, using kelp as their main source of food. But their troubles would come to an end when the Republic took notice of them and would bring them officially into the fold. Resting on such an important hyperlane gave them immense trade opportunities, which of course opened up immigration. Soon the primary human planet became heavily inhabited by aliens and non-human species. The city planet was a major hyperspace transport hub, making it incredibly wealthy, and it was here when it gained the nickname as the Coruscant of the Outer Rim. And for a glorious 144 prosperous years, Terrace was an economic rival to the galactic capital. However, the world wasn't truly a planet-spanning city. Unlike others, Terrace contained an ocean that could not be built over, and because of this, the planet quickly suffered from overpopulation, and only the Republic kept it from falling into total despair and anarchy. But the world would suffer a sudden and a harsh decay that began in the year 4156 BBY, when other, more convenient hyperlanes were discovered which links the core to the Outer Rim. Suddenly, the Hydean Way was only one of many hyperlanes rather than a singular one. This sudden drop in trade and commerce was a huge blow to the Terracin city, and in the ensuing decades, the planet saw a rapid urban decay. Without the Republic, the businesses died out, and commerce began to shrink. To maintain the planet's economy, though, Terrace turned to industry, switching to a new, cheaper...
So how the Republic, let me get this straight. The Republic introduced them to it, and then just said, fuck off. Y'all got it. Y'all on your own now. Nigga, help us. Help us. What are you... Man...
power source, but this produced toxic waste as a byproduct. thus slowly polluting the once pristine ocean. In just a century, the kelp farms and most of the marine life, which Terrace greatly depended on, was completely destroyed. Crime began to sweep as residents began to clamor for a way to keep their lives going. And at some point, an unknown event would see the introduction of the Rakghoul plague in the Undercity. Rakghouls are horrific flesh-eating creatures that were created by Sith alchemy. They are one of the oldest diseases of the Sith, being among one of its first inceptions.
That's
One of the
cool.
original 12 Dark Jedi Carnis Myrrh is attributed with the Rakghouls' creation. These mindless troglodytes are aggressive and actively seek out other sentients to kill and consume. A single bite or a scratch from one of these creatures will infect the sentient, no matter the species, and eventually, they will become a Rakghoul. It is a rapid and a painful process. A cure would eventually be synthesized, but it only worked up until a certain point. Once someone turned into a Rakghoul, they were now beyond help. Not to mention the cure was expensive and difficult to come by, so many of the lower class that lived in the Undercity were completely out of luck. Soon, Rakghouls overran both the Undercity and the sewer systems, and every now and then, the Rakghouls would wander their way into the turbo lifts from the sewers into the lower city and would attack the residents there. But luckily, the heroic residents managed to fight them back and stave off the disease. But all of this was only the beginning of the problems that Terrace would face moving forward. After several decades of Terrace's ecosystem dying from pollution, famine, and swept away in the planet, panic and greed of the upper class turned to hoarding and remaining kelp and marine life solely for the rich. By 4056 BBY, the starving lower class engaged the nobles in a civil war, with millions of innocents dying and large sections of the world completely destroyed or abandoned. Ultimately, the nobility prevailed and had the rebels all taken in a mass
This war. Nah, let me
to rest. However, the prison systems could not hold all of them, as it was almost the entire population of the lower class that had revolted. And so, the nobility turned to one place worse than prisons: the Undercity. This began the tradition of banishing all lawbreakers into the Undercity, unable to return to the surface under threat of death. And that extended to not only criminals, but also to their children and their future descendants. This bred an entire civilization of people in the Undercity calling themselves the Outcasts. They built a village, but suffered from starvation, Rakghoul attacks, and infections. All hope for them was lost, save for the prevailing legend of the Promised Land. Many who had rebelled during the Terra Civil War were non-humans, which then created a massive prejudice against alien species in the upper level. It got so bad that they banished all non-humans to the middle and the lower cities. No aliens were allowed to enter the upper levels without a permit under direct threat of punishment. And Terra society was so bad that it pretty much was impossible to ascend to success out of anyone's social or economic class. Their only hope was to work hard to eventually save up enough money to leave the planet altogether. The remaining kelp, along with the remaining oceanic fauna, was consumed to extinction by the Terrasan nobles, after which they were forced to rely on imported food entirely. Naturally, all of this gave the planet a bad reputation to off-worlders no matter what species. And in the years leading to the Mandalorian Wars of 3964 BBY, crime became the main government of the lower city. No police ever went down there, and justice was purely theoretical. Soon it was run by gangs. Groups like the Hidden Becks organized themselves to make life easier for the poor community, and would use their muscle to enforce a facsimile of the law. This made them the de facto authority in the lower city. But others, like the Black Volcars, were violent and simply wanted to oppress the lower residents to feel powerful. Gangs in the lower city got worse as they fought for more power, and their main vehicle was the swoop bike, which they also used to compete in the Great Terrasan Great Swoop Race. Thus, the term swoop gang was coined for these criminals. Swoop racing would soon capture the imagination of the galaxy, and using an intricate system of hyperspace beacons, Terrasan race organizations
I'm sorry, but I'm not taking no nigga. I'm a swoop game, bruh. I can't take you serious, bruh. I cannot take you serious, bruh. You in what game? I can barely take the niggas serious now. They actually killing niggas. I can't even take them serious. How am I supposed to take you serious? Yo, you in a game called Swoop Gang. Swoop Gang? That ain't it. That ain't it. It ain't it.
Nations broadcast the results in their swoop races throughout the entire
Oh,
galaxy.
God, that
This
word is
eventually
just
gave
goofy.
rise
Like,
to a
I
huge
can't
and
take that word
profitable
serious.
gambling
I think
operation.
it's
The
swoop.
Crooked Circuit Corporation even
What,
got
is that a
involved,
swoop?
and they
Like,
decided to
oh,
completely
nah, that
fund
ain't
the
it.
gambling event.
That ain't
Although
it.
not as
That ain't
classy,
it.
this gave Terrace a foothold
Shoot
back in
game.
galactic society and gave the people a reason to care about it. Terrace remained a hub for swoop racing for decades, becoming the center of galactic swoop racing circuits. And at this time, the criminal organization known as the Exchange based itself off
You
of
just
Terrace,
keep saying
as
the
the civil
word, bro,
authority
like-
accepted bribes to keep quiet and keep their collaboration under
What is a
wraps.
swoop,
When
right?
the
What is a
Mandalorian
swoop?
Wars broke out, though, Terrace became a staging ground for the Republic's war against the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders.
That
Due to
better
the
be a
planet's
swoop.
proximity to the
I'm
war
stuck
front,
on that word
it was
swoop,
perfect
man. I'm
rallying
sorry,
place
guys.
for the dissident Jedi who were led by Revan. The Mandalorians fought hard for control of Terrace, even managing to dissolve the Terrace civil authority, driving the Exchange off of the world. In this power vacuum, crime swelled to unbearable levels below. This caused the Lawson Industries, a mining company which employed half of the planet's lower class in its operation, to completely and finally abandon Terrace. This left millions unemployed, as rioting began as the government completely collapsed, even spreading up into the middle levels, setting the entire section of the skyline on fire and kidnapping the
Damn.
planet's senator. But things were about to
Damn.
get worse. Due to the political anarchy,
That's
the
karma
Jedi
for
based
you.
on the world were recalled to the temple on
That's karma
Coruscant,
for you.
abandoning Terrace to their horrible fate. And with that, Terrace was also largely abandoned by the Republic military as well. Without the protection of the Jedi and the Republic, the planet was taken by the Mandalorians. The criminals, the Hidden Beck swoop gang, formed an underground resistance against the Mandalorians though, and would fight in the
Got
Republic's
taken
stead
over
for the
by the
remainder of the
swoop
war.
gang.
Once the Neo-Crusaders
Man.
were defeated at the Battle of Malachor V, those that were still occupying Terrace were ejected from the
Weak-ass
planet,
government.
and soon the criminal
taken
exchange
over
of the
by some
Circuit
niggas called
Corporation
swoop
would
gang.
successfully retake Terrace. Things would completely turn around during the Jedi Civil War, when Malak's Sith overran nearly the entirety of the Outer Rim, leaving Terrace as the last valuable planet in the region still under Republic control. This reinvigorated interest in Terrace again, and a small Republic force was stationed there. In 3956 BBY, the Republic managed to make a stand on Terrace, and the ship known as the Endar Spire soon arrived to the planet to bulk up the existing garrison. Several important members of the Republic war effort were on board this ship, including Kartha Onasi, Jedi Knight Bastila Shan, and Revan. Revan, who recently had his memory wiped and was currently under the impression that he was a Republic soldier and Jedi. The Endar Spire was ambushed eventually, however, by the Sith, Dark Malak's forces, as several escape pods were launched from the ship, with Bastila landing in the lower city, and Karth and Revan landing in the upper city. Sith forces quickly invaded the planet, as Malak ordered a wide-sweeping search for Bastila and Revan. The Terracins had no resistance to the Sith occupation, and the Imperial forces crushed all Republic opposition. The Sith then quarantined Terrace to make sure that no one could get in or out. Revan and Karth navigated their way through Terrace, asking around, and even dealing with the lower city gangs and the Rakghoul plague while attempting to find Bastila. They eventually found that she had been captured by the Exchange, and was then being sold as a slave. Revan managed to win her freedom in a swoop race, and infiltrated the Exchange's headquarters to claim a ship
those
known
are
as the
swoops.
Ebon
Okay.
Hawk, which was their only means
Those are
for escape
swoops.
from Terrace. Meanwhile, Darth Malak had grown impatient in search for the Jedi, and ordered his fleet to bombard the world. They rained down hellfire from their broadside cannons, annihilating the city on the surface. Terrace would be destroyed unnecessarily as Revan and the crew escaped the bombardment aboard the Ebon Hawk. As a result, the upper city, the middle city, and the lower city were completely destroyed. The rubble from those levels landed on the surface, which crushed most of the undercity, flattening much of the sewer system below, and perhaps worst of all, badly damaging the promised land beneath.
The
During the
civilians
Sith
that is playing
occupation,
the dish.
Terrace had a population of
Fuck,
around
they just
6
was put in a
billion,
bad
which was far
situation from the
dwindling from the
beginning.
past. But after its destruction,
had a
it was
chance
closer
with
to
the beginning.
600, with the outcasts of the Undercity being the only survivors. At the time of the destruction, they had been making their months-long exodus from their village to the entrance of the Promised Land, which had now been located once again. But Terrace's karma finally caught up to it, as
Yeah.
the whole planet would pay the price.
Yeah.
Inversely though, Terrace's destruction and the slaughter of its entire population ended many of the planet's issues. This included decaying skyscrapers, the Bek-Volkar gang war, the Sith occupation, and the Exchange influence, as well as the Circuit Corporation funding, and species and class oppression. Soon, after 200 years of the planet slowly dying, the city was put to a painful rest. When the outcasts finally reached the Promised Land, though, the underground city was vastly different from the legend. Or at least, after Terrace's destruction, it was different. What remained of the Terracins had made it safe, and saw the realm was sheltered from the bombardment, but they found that the buildings, equipment, and the generators had all been destroyed. Therefore, the outcasts had to begin anew. And while this was difficult, they had survived the bombardment, the attack that had killed billions. However,
they got their planet back. They no longer under oppression. They ain't got them assholes leading them no more. And nigga, the Sith, more than likely the Sith think ain't nobody even alive on this bitch no more. So they ain't even gonna come looking here no more. There ain't nothing to look for here no more. They destroyed this bitch. So y'all good. Y'all just keep y'all head low, y'all good.
Many generations had passed since then, and they kept memories of this terrible apocalypse. The cure to the Rakghoul plague that Revan had discovered was enough to protect the first few generations, but after the Rakghouls evolved to a new advanced level, it was obvious that the serum became useless. And to make things even worse, babies were no longer born immune. Not only this, but the Rakghouls began learning to use weapons, even blasters, and some became sentient. The sole group of survivors eventually renamed themselves the Terracinians. The outcasts returned to the surface, hoping to rebuild their world from scratch. But this too was in vain. They continued to die out on the surface from starvation, disease, and Rakghoul attacks. In the last surviving recording, it was mentioned that the last generation had lived with almost no information about what their world was before. They didn't even know what brought them there. And soon, hundreds of them now only numbered 12. And one by one, they quickly dwindled, dwindling to the point where not a single human remained alive. This was largely due to toxic waste in the water that they were drinking from, which resulted in their extinction like the rest of the planet's population many years later. Eventually, the Rakghouls became the only living species on the entirety of the city planet of Terrace. Terrace remained a smoking ruin for the next 300 years. Trees and vegetation regrew during this era, and nearly consumed the entire ruins of the city. But the Republic was simply in too much disarray to allocate any new resources to help reconstruct Terrace, and so the Coruscant of the Outer Rim was officially labeled.
Nigga, the Republic should have been helped. Nigga, if the Republic was gonna help, they should have been helped when it was at least 100. It ain't nobody left to help now y'all wanna, oh, we ain't got enough resources to allocate to. Nigga, y'all wasn't gonna help in the first place. Why are y'all acting like y'all was gonna help us in the first place? I would have been heated. Oh,
a dead world. During the Cold War of 3653 BBY, the Republic would return to Terrace with an initiative to rebuild the planet though. This had come following the humiliating defeat to Vitiate's empire, which now ruled half of the galaxy. The Republic decided to rebuild Terrace after so long amidst all of the chaos, making it a beacon of hope to all the citizens of the galaxy. It would show that the Republic would preserve and rebuild during this era of despair, and the Sith soon picked up on this and would ensure that those reconstruction efforts would never happen.
Y'all come on this planet.
This message of hope.
If I died on Terrace,
the Sith.
Shut up. I'm sorry, bro. I'm fucking with you. It ain't you. It's the fucking Republic that's fucking making me mad. If y'all come to Terrace and I'm a nigga that died on Terrace, but I'm hunting every nigga that come to Terrace that's part of the Republic. Nigga, I'm a ghost and I'm hunting y'all niggas. Y'all want to help when we dead? Nigga, we dead. Nigga, we dead. How y'all gonna help us now? We dead.
And Terrace remained in complete ruin, thus ending the planet's history. The story and tragedy of Terrace is one after the other. It began and died within the days of the Old Republic, and although it was rebuilt and repopulated by the time of the Clone Wars, it is a shadow of its former self. It is a terrible history and reputation that kept it from ever growing back to the shining place that it had once been. And the Republic hardly wanted anything to do with it because of what it now represented. It was a mirror of social decay that was soon to grip many other worlds. It was a fear of what could happen if they grow too far and too fast, and if only Coruscant had paid better attention. But anyway, my friends, thank you so much for joining us in the archives today for this story in Holocron, and as always, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, man. Rest in peace to civilians or terrorists, man. This shit done got me heated, bro. I'm too invested now. I'm too invested now. We definitely gonna have to do another video about terrorists. I'm gonna have to look for one. If y'all know one, send it to me. Cause nah, the Republic, fuck Man, matter of fact, find a video about how fucked up the Republic actually is. That's what we gonna watch. Cause fuck the Republic. That's how I'm feeling now. That's how I'm feeling right now. Fuck the fucking Republic. Y'all have a good day, and I'll see y'all later.